Well, this is Jerry bringing you another episode of What's Broke Today. Today we've got an old snowblower. It's an Aaron's ST824. Basically means it's an 8 horsepower motor with a 24-inch clearing swath. That he had been getting it started with the electric starter. That it had one of those plug into a 110 volt outlet and push the button, and he finally burnt the starter up, and so he couldn't ever get it started with just the rope. So I'm gonna start running some tests, and we'll probably edit out quite a few things of me just turning wrenches, that get rid of all the boring stuff. But he had put a new spark plug in it, and we're gonna put the plug in and check for spark. It's not great spark, but it does have spark. Now, when I was pulling the rope before I started recording, it literally felt like it had no compression. So that's where we're going to start out with, is a compression gauge. Put it in there, and then we'll give the rope a couple pulls. And it has almost 40 pounds of compression. So definitely not enough to run. But when he's using the electric starter, he probably was getting it to spin fast enough. Yeah. Okay, well, I took the belt cover off mainly so I can reach down here and turn the crank by hand. And I need to get this on top dead center of the compression stroke, so I'll just put my finger over the hole, finger over the spark plug hole. I'm just going to pull this real slow so I feel it building compression, which it wasn't much. And then I don't know if I can see oh yep, I can see the piston. So I'm going to put the piston up on top dead center. Now I'm going to use a thing called a cylinder leak down tester, which we screw it into the spark plug hole. And then we take it and connect it to our air pressure. And I get my ready. I have my trusty stethoscope. Now I'm going to take the probe off of it, and I'm going to put it on, and after I apply air to the hose, I'm going to listen. I'm trying to go ahead and get this out of the way. Alright, so I'm going to apply air pressure. Now I'm going to listen in the exhaust. I'm going to listen in the carburetor. And I'm going to listen in the oil dipstick to see where or if I have air leaking, and let's hope it doesn't spin the motor over, which it did. Okay, well, we're going to try this again. Now, of course, I'm going to put these on first. that's not very promising, because my worst leak was loudest in the dipstick, which in most cases means rings. But I did hear a little bit in the exhaust and in the carburetor. So that just means, I guess, we'll start tearing into this and see what we find. I have to get creative on the muffler if I break a bolt. Well, yeah, I've got some of those thread-in mufflers. Yeah. So we'll just break them off, deal with that later. But this is threaded, so I should be able to put one of those thread-on mufflers. Got like 3/4 inch pipe thread. We used to always call them a hot dog muffler. And so far, I only have one head bolt that's giving me any trouble. Well, the one head bolt I was having trouble with, I used a little bit of PB Blaster, and it came loose. And we got our normal carbon buildup. That cylinder actually looks really good. There's a couple little lines up here toward the top, like maybe where the piston had sat for a long time. But that doesn't look bad at all. I'm just kind of wondering, I know I was hearing that around the piston, around the rings, but man, that actually looks really good. Wonder if we just got a ring that's stuck in a groove. And it looks, I mean, if you look at the head gasket on the valve end, you notice how it's darker around here than it is down here, and same way on the other side. You know what I probably should have done was took and listened around the head gasket, because there's a potential that was some of our leak at end. I think I'm going to take the carburetor off and pull my tappet access and check my valve clearance, because our exhaust valve is opening as we come up, and it pushes out the exhaust, but then it opens the intake. And of course our intake closes, but our exhaust, you know, you can see here I can turn it. As we come up, you know, the exhaust is not completely closed. I mean, because there I'm, I don't know, 5/16 of an inch from the top of the cylinder and our valve. And this camshaft should have what's called a compression release on it. And if the exhaust is open, all of our new combustibles went out the muffler, they didn't compress, so the engine can't run. So we'll take a break from the video while I get everything and remove that carburetor. And then we'll look and pull the tappet cover and see what our valve clearance is. Alright, well, I have rolled this thing to top dead center on the compression stroke with both valves closed. And I don't know if you can see where I'm putting the feeler gauge, but I'll put it in between the tappet and the valve. And you can see on the intake side I got clearance. On the exhaust side I do not, and I was using a 3/1000 of an inch feeler gauge. The specifications on this, I found a couple different ones, and I saw anywhere from 6/1000 in one spot to 8 to 12 in another spot. And I'm thinking probably for the most part 6/1000 is probably adequate. So I'll take a 6/1000 feeler gauge now, which probably can't read that. And I'll go for the intake, and a 6/1000 fits easily. I'll bump up to the 8/1000. Keep hitting the camera. And 8/1000 fits. So we're going to call the intake valve good. I'm going to have to run to the house and get the tool, and I'm going to pull the exhaust valve out, and let's take a look at it. There we go. Okay, that worked. So then we can just go through here and push that up a little and pull our valve out, and a little bit of play in the valve guide, but not much. And then what I'm going to end up doing is taking this out to my grinder, and I'm going to grind some off of this, and then we'll have to come back and put her back together and try it and check the clearance. And I'm going to grind it till we get about 8 to 10/1000 of an inch, because well, I inadvertently switched from video to take a picture. So I got my valve put back in, and I took my feeler gauge and I ground off just a little too much, because I got a good 14/1000 of an inch of clearance, which probably at the most I should only have 12/1000. But piston down and exhaust opens. Intake opens, and see here our compression release is doing its thing, and it still ain't closing all the way till I'm damn near to the top. I'll put some thought into that. I might actually grind some more off of that. I was worried about it being too loose, but because there were maybe 5/8 of an inch or 3/4 from the top. That's probably more like 5/8, and I'm still off the seat. It's hard to turn just a little smidge. So yeah, I've gained, the piston's about 1/2 inch from the top of its travel now. I'm gonna actually do some looking, see if I can find a spec for what that, how much that compression release is supposed to push open the valve when it's doing its compression release thing, because well, that seems like normally you just get a bump. Okay, we're back with our snowblower. That I got my gasket for the crankcase breather / tappet area. I have a new intake manifold gasket, a new head gasket, and then also some primer hose that I was going to change it out too, but I was going to start out first by doing my scraping and, you know, getting all the carbon off the top of the piston and off the top of, you know, the motor. So we get all this cleaned up and off there, and I can blow that off. I want to clean the gasket surface really well, and I always start out, you know, just a gentle scrape, and this time I'm actually using a gasket scraper. And I'm also going to scrape and decarbon the cylinder head in the chamber area and clean off its gasket area, you know, which don't take much. You know, get all this loose stuff here off and get rid of it. And then of course clean the gasket area. And then also once I get the engine clean, I'm actually going to take a little bit of seafoam and I'm going to move the piston down and pour this around the rings, because I'm thinking that the rings may be stuck. You know, I went and looked at another engine similar to this, and I don't think it still seems odd that the piston travels as high in the cylinder as it does before the valve completely closes. But looking at another engine, I think it's normal. So I'm going to do some cleaning and I'll come back. Alright, so I got the crankcase breather gasket cleaned off. I was going to put it back on, and our breather only goes on one way only. And because when we look around it, we're all sealed up around this side, but on the other side, you'll see two little tiny holes on it. And those holes always go down. And the purpose of those is, you know, even though it's a crankcase breather, it also functions as an oil separator. So you put those drain holes down, so any oil that it separates out of the air that goes through there, it can put it back down in the bottom of the crankcase. Because well, I can't see it now, but there's a hole right inside of here that's below the breather that goes back down into the sump. Yeah, I got our new gasket there, and I cleaned off all our intake gasket. I say I cleaned off. I cleaned off the engine, and there was just a little bit on the carburetor. Of course, I got that new gasket, and try to get that the right way. because it can put it on either way, but there's only one right way. So, and if you don't get on the right way, you could have a vacuum leak, and they don't run very good with vacuum leaks. So, well, I got everything cleaned up, so we're ready to put our cylinder head on, and our gasket. Well, it's not marked top or bottom. But it doesn't really fit like that, so yeah, so that is the way it goes, like that. Now we'll slide the cylinder head down in there very carefully. See if I can do that without moving the gasket too much. And then we got all our bolts started. And I just noticed I may have to replace the coil because yeah, it says I may have to replace the coil because that wire is bad. It's not in very good shape right there. I'm probably going to edit out part of this, me tightening them or running them down close. So we got that. Now next thing, we're going to tighten them down. The torque is 200 inch-pounds. Well, I'm going to do it in two segments, 100 and then 200. I'll go, there's one, I'll skip two, tighten one, skip two, tighten one, skip two. I'm back where I started, and I'll just move over one, skip two, skip two, and skip two, and I'll do the same thing. Okay, now we're going to run this up to 200 inch-pounds. Let's see, then we'll do the same thing. And then last, I'll go back around, because as soon as I compress the gasket, then some of them will come loose. I may try and drill that bolt out right here just so this cover's tighter. But I'm going to run up and get a different muffler and stick in there for now. Our shroud bolts. Can't go on these like I did on the others because they're screwing down into plastic. Now we're all back together. Let's see where our oil's at. And these old things like this, it's to screw in the dipstick and pull it out, and a little dirty, but it is right on full. I got everything put back together. I got I went and got one of our hot dog mufflers. I'm going to redo the compression check while I'm here. And I got everything put back together. That I still haven't drilled out that bolt, but we'll worry about that later. We'll hear it run. Hot dog muffler installed. Compression gauge in it. Always do compression, wide open throttle, choke open. So since I was doing that, I put the spark plug in the hole, or on the wire, and then we'll give her a couple pulls. And I'm up to Looks like almost 70 pounds. Real close to 70. So we'll get the spark plug back in and get some gas, and let's give her a shot, see if it runs. I was getting ready to put gas in, and I went ahead and thought I'd recheck and see what my spark looked like, and after messing with everything, I don't have any spark. I tried taking another old engine apart, see if I can get a coil out of it, but it's got the old school underneath the flywheel, and I think this is new enough to be the outside the flywheel. But so yeah, so I got to take all the bolts out of the shroud, and then and it does have the one outside. Now the question is if I can get this off with the looks like it's going to slide up out of there just barely. Well, it is super close. There we go. I'll unplug the kill wire. Let's see, my spark plug wire right there is toast. Yeah, so I'm gonna hunt down a coil. My new ignition coil for my snowblower finally showed up, and we'll get this dude put on. Yeah, I mean, I've only been waiting almost 2 weeks for this thing. That it got shipped, and then it's been all over the country. That I don't know what the deal is with the post office not being able to get things out in a timely manner, and where it should have been here in a couple days from where it was coming from. It's just a good thing it wasn't a thing I had to have right away. Line it up with the magnet, and then I just take some paper and fold it in half and put it in between the magnet and the coil, and then just let the magnet suck it up to the flywheel and tighten her down. Then a lot of times I even use a business card, but I mean, it's just 2 thicknesses of paper, and then I just turn it and make sure it doesn't. I'll shut some of the lights out, see if I can see spark. Yeah, I can't spin it fast enough with my fingers, so. But that's alright, we can. It won't take long to put the shroud back over anyway. There we go. That'll be it. We got 1, 2. Let's get our throttle back in place because it's hanging down in the way of the okay, there's that. Cats just love to help. Okay. I will pull this back out. Turn some lights out. Hey, and I got spark. Which I forgot I brought gas in the other day when I was putting this together. Thought I was going to have it running then. Now I'm not going to fill it up, just going to put enough in to hopefully start. Trouble, you might want to go someplace else. Now I'm going to start this at idle. Just to make sure. Cats, you probably want to go someplace else. Oh, it looks like the gas line's on. Here, I'm not seeing that squirt any fuel up. There ain't no fuel in the carburetor. Okay, now we got fuel over there. That looks better. It looks like I need to peek inside the carburetor, but it did run. So I took the float bowl off, and I don't know if you can see all that green stuff. So I'm gonna have to clean this needle valve up, or I think I have a new one left over from the other snowblower. All right, after some adjusting on the carburetor, we can turn the key on and well, yeah, I mean, it's old, not going to run perfect, but it does run. It starts halfway decent now that We may have to do something with the ignition switch, but I'll say the guy that it belongs to, he'd just be happy that it'll run, even if it won't shut off. But yeah, man, I'd say turned out good, getting the valve clearance readjusted, cleaning out the carburetor, some fresh fuel. Yeah, I'd say we're good to go. That I appreciate you watching. Always appreciate the thumbs up for a like. You know, if you'd like, please subscribe, because I'll tell them what else you're going to see on What's Broke Today. Thank you.